May the sound of this bell penetrate deep into the cosmos. Even in the darkest spots, living beings are able to hear it clearly, so that all suffering in them ceases. Understanding comes to their heart, and they transcend the path of sorrow and death. The universal Dharma door is already open. The sound of the rising tide is heard clearly. The miracle happens. A beautiful child appears in the heart of the lotus flower. One single drop of this compassionate water is enough to bring back the refreshing spring to our mountains and rivers. Listening to the bell, I feel the afflictions in me begin to dissolve, my mind calm, my body relaxed. A smile is born on my lips. Following the sound of the bell, my breath brings me back to the safe island of mindfulness. In the garden of my heart, the followers of peace bloom beautifully. I'd like to invite up our volunteers for incense. And inside of your booklets, we have our incense offering. And together we say, in gratitude, we offer this incense throughout space and time to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, wholehearted awareness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. We bow. Good morning, everyone. So good to see you all. Another beautiful day. So we are going to begin with our 3 refuges. Before we begin, we will turn and greet each other silently. I believe it is on page 7. I go for refuge to Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, the way of peace, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to the Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the 3 jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion, and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to live simply and sanely, content with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly, so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. And if you'll flip your booklet over, on the other side is the Heart Sutra, which we will chant together in a upbeat fashion. Breathe some life into the sutra, bring it into your heart so you can bring it with you for the rest of your day. Dhamma Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. The Bodhisattva of great compassion, from the deep practice of Prajna Paramita, perceived the emptiness of all 5 skandhas and delivered all beings from their suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. No form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind. No realm of sight. No realm of consciousness. No ignorance, nor extinction of ignorance. No old age and death, nor extinction of them. No suffering, no cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering, no knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva holds on to nothing but prajna, paramita. Therefore the mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Without hindrance there is no fear. Away from all perverted views, one reaches final nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future, through faith in prajna, paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the prajna, paramita, is the great Dharma, the radiant, peerless mantra, the utmost supreme mantra, which is capable of allaying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the prajna, paramita. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. The Maha Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. The journey to bodhicitta. Now, we all have bodhicitta, or the ability to cultivate bodhicitta within us. And I'm going to use a few examples to convey what bodhicitta is. Now, many of us are familiar of the feeling of walking down the street, destination in mind, and you come across somebody who is experiencing homelessness. They might have a sign asking for help, or maybe they're sleeping in a stoop. But you have that feeling in your heart that you want to help, that you want to do something for them, that you'd like to help alleviate their suffering. But in that moment, maybe you aren't capable. Maybe you don't have the tools necessary. You haven't developed that ability yet. So your mind goes back to where your destination was, and you continue in that direction. So that question that we ask ourselves, how can I help? What can I do for you? That is the inner spark or flame of bodhicitta. It usually comes from our inner goodness, our innate inner goodness, right? Our Buddha nature, that thing we all have, that we often forget that we all have. Now, that was just one example. Another example might be that you're a parent and you're in the middle of writing emails or trying to get something done around the house, and your kid comes up to you and says, "Hey, can you help me with something?" And you shoo them away and you say, yeah, I'll help you in just a few minutes. I really got to get this done. And in your heart, you really do want to help, right? You really do. You want to stop and help your kid do whatever it is that they need help with. But you just don't have the tools yet to be able to let go of what your self-centeredness, and do what you need to do for them. Not to say that you won't get to it, but it's a journey, right? So this is why it's necessary to develop those tools, that ability to recognize and let go of our attachments to what we want, so we can help other beings be free from their suffering. And I'm not going to lie to you. While the idea of bodhicitta is incredibly encouraging and evoking and beautiful and wonderful, and it really incites feelings of goodness, it's a challenging journey. It's not easy. So what can we do to help our journey along? So to go in a little bit further about bodhicitta, bodhicitta is a cultivation of our desire to help all living beings. And that means to help them be free from their suffering. Now, directly translated, it means to awaken the heart mind. So this inspiration for developing our bodhicitta can happen over time, or it can happen instantaneously. So when I was 7, my siblings and I went to go stay with our Swedish babysitter while my parents began their separation process. And for her, it was an unexpected event. 11 o'clock at night, she gets a call from my mom saying, "Hi, we need a place to stay." And rather than being concerned with her own needs and her own self and her own schedule, she immediately dropped everything to help us out and welcomed us into her home with warm, welcome arms. And see, if we're able to see it, there are people in the world who will generate bodhicitta for you when you need it the most. Now, I wouldn't want to wish divorce on any family, but if it were to happen, I hope that I too can have that same open, loving, welcoming heart that my babysitter Lottie showed me and my family that day. Bodhicitta is what helps us connect to each other. It's unrestricted compassion and an all-pervasive wisdom. Now, this is developed within our practice, and that's why we say it's so important to have a practice. So bodhicitta comes from this initial aspiration to begin our journey on the Buddhist path. And it's in understanding the suffering of others and taking the steps to alleviate that suffering. Now, this kind of awareness comes from experience. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. So when we feel inspired to help others, the way that we can fan this flame is by working on ourselves. So this is developed by allowing ourselves to remain vulnerable to our own suffering and the things that incite discomfort in our lives. So when I first moved to Michigan about 10 years ago, I had recently left my ex of almost 5 years. I was leaving everything I grew up around, knew, loved, all my favorite places, all my friends, everything that was comforting to me. I was going from the ocean and mountains to flat land and rivers and lakes, salt water, lake water, right? Completely different for me. Place that never has snow to a place that has snow. And during those 5 days that I spent driving across the country, packed all of my belongings, everything I owned, into my purple Volkswagen Passat, my brother, my 2 cats, my leopard gecko, and a rose bush. And we drove across the country for 5 days. And while there were moments on that drive, all I wanted to do was break down and cry and get involved and attached to the poor me mentality. I didn't want to do that to my brother, number one, made him feel uncomfortable. But I also had to get where I was going so I could heal. Now, upon my arrival, for 2 months, I sat in that state, that mind state of poor me, why me, what is going on with my life? And then one day, I picked up an original copy that my mom had of Ram Dass's Be Here Now. And I read through the whole thing. And it was then, and within those pages, that I found that courage to be vulnerable and open to where I was. I had to meet myself where I just landed. So my attachments to what was keeping me from being in the present. I was essentially creating my own cage, my own self-inflicted cage of suffering. Now, I needed to go through that in order to fully embrace this experience, to see the good in my circumstances. I had to work on my own suffering so I could be a participant in the world again. So according to the Bodhisattva Bumbi, which is a treatise on the training of a bodhisattva, the bodhisattva who gives rise to bodhicitta thinks thus: may I obtain supreme and perfect enlightenment, promote the good of all beings, and establish them in the final and complete nirvana and in the Buddha knowledge. So bodhicitta is continually born from our circumstances and our perspective. But it's also, while it's an aspiration, it is also a commitment. It's something that we can find motivation from within, and through that, we can commit to being a living example. So when we find the need to pull ourselves out of an egocentric slump, that can be a positive egocentric slump or a negative egocentric slump, Chogyam Trungpa says that the way to arouse bodhicitta is to begin with a broken heart. So follow me here. I want you to think of a thought that inspires helpful action. And this could be a global tragedy like global warming. This might be war or conflict. Or this could be someone that you know, that you love, that's in pain. Maybe they've relapsed after months of being clean. Maybe they've just gotten a severe diagnosis of an illness. Whoever that person is, bring that person to mind, or whatever circumstance that is, bring it to mind. Now, for me, I recently had the opportunity to visit my Aunt Claire. She's the last of my dad's living siblings. She has late-stage Lewy body dementia and is getting close to the end. So looking at her thinning body, crumpled up in the fetal position, living among others who are also suffering from degenerative brain diseases, I felt this sadness to see what had become of this beautiful, kind, generous, loving woman that I had known from my childhood. And while it's really easy to get lost in that sadness, to let it fully envelop you and control you, bodhicitta is finding the way out. So instead, what I saw sitting next to my sadness was bodhicitta, was all the beautiful things that were around her, that were helping her through her life, through the rest of her life. And what I also saw was a desire to help. What can I do to make you feel a little bit more comfortable through this last time in your life? and this very limited time I get to spend with you. So I massaged her feet. I brushed her hair. I held her hand. I rubbed her back. And I reminded her over and over again about how much she is loved. And while I can't take away the disease, I can spend time with her. I can support my cousin who has given so much of her time and her effort to my aunt. I can thank the nurses at the facility. I can offer kindness and support to others who are experiencing the exact same thing. I can thank a hospice worker. I can find more ways to be helpful within the capacity that I am capable of. The journey to bodhicitta is a lifelong journey. And what I appreciate about it is that I am constantly being asked to see the world around me in a different light, a different perspective. My mom likes to use this analogy, and she's been using it since I was a young kid. And she said, make sure to look at the other side of the beach ball. So if you think about a beach ball, it has stripes of colors on it. And when I pass the ball to you, maybe you see red and white and yellow. When you pass the ball to me, maybe I see orange, green, and blue, right? We might see a little bit of the same, but we see different things. So she's asking you to turn it around and see what the other person sees, right? So in every moment, what we do right now can help alleviate the suffering of the world. Everything we do, being mindful, engaging in our practice, every word we say and every action we make forms that basis for our future. I think of it like the prospect of a fruitful garden. You don't just walk out to an empty field and hope to be picking apples or berries or, freshly grown zucchini. You have to put that time and effort into planting the seeds, cultivating the land, and helping those plants flourish. So what you put in is what you get out. Now, there are going to be bumps along the way. Okay, there's going to be challenges that are out of your control. Now, in the case of my actual garden, I had a hungry flock of robins come in early on and pick out all the seeds that I had just planted. And then they ripped apart all the little seedlings that had sprouted. And while I really wanted to get angry at those robins, I also had to find that compassion for them, right? They were just hungry. They didn't know it was my garden. I was just really attached to it. So by developing our practice, we can share our bodhicitta with these beings, those robins included, and all circumstances as well. I'd like to end with a quote from our Lojong practice. May whatever I have done, no matter how small, have ripple effects and influence the lives of other beings in a positive way, developing bodhicitta in their mind stream and freeing them from resentment, bitterness, hostility, and hatred. May they experience comfort and ease in the practice of love, compassion, joy, and ease. We are all on this journey of cultivating bodhicitta together. At the very end of Shanti Deva's prayer, give me a second, now I've got to recite it in my head. May I too abide to dispel the misery of the world. May all beings be free. Prepare yourself for meditation. And in your motivation, in your meditation today, I know I'm trying to find motivation for my meditation. That's an exercise that you can use to bring up bodhicitta when maybe your practice is stagnant and you're having a hard time being less self-centered. Think of someone, something that arouses that motivation to do good in the world. Like I said, that person. It could be a global situation, global warming. It could be war and conflict. And meditate on that. Think about things outside of yourself. What are your attachments to that? And then how can you let that go so you can help other beings that are experiencing that same discomfort that you are, right? So take that with you into your meditation if you'd like, or focus on your breathing. So just as a last note on bodhicitta, something to be reminded is do what you are capable of doing. If you are not capable, don't do it. Be easy with yourself as well. So I'm going to open up the floor. I don't know. Does anybody have any questions about that talk? Any questions about bodhicitta? In a way, you could say that it's finding the motivation to provide help to others, if that makes sense, right? Because motivation isn't always there. That's right.
What was the name of the book you said you read? Okay. That was
Sorry, I've never heard that before.
kind of interesting.
Now, I'm not sure which.
The one you said you read and your mom had it and you read it straight through.
Ram Dass's Be Here Now.
Okay.
It's from, oh, geez, I don't even know what year it's from, but it's after he went and studied with his teacher. And it's actually more like a picture book. There's really beautiful illustrations in it. So, and like the pages, one way, sometimes you'll open it and read it this way. Sometimes you'll open it and read it this way. Sometimes you'll open it and read it that way. It's a fabulous, fabulous little piece of a little book. Any other questions? All right. So I'd like to open up the floor for joys and concerns.
I have a joy / correction. Last week, I mentioned our friend James, who is now 10 days post heart surgery and doing well, except I sent all the meta to the wrong James. Yeah, his name's not O'Toole. It's Quinn. So hopefully wherever James O'Toole is, that he's feeling much better today. But now I'd like you to remember our friend James Quinn. Hopefully we'll see him back here in not too much longer.
Yesterday we found a dead bird that was right next to the feeder, and my grandma and my grandpa think that it might have smashed its head into the window. So, R.I.P. bird.
I have a joy. Excuse me. A number of us were outside cleaning up debris from the sidewalks, and it's always an ongoing challenge here. And again, thank you to those who helped. And as we were doing it, a woman who was walking down the street said, "I want to show you what a good citizen I am." And she helped us. And so I guess I want to bring that up as a constant reminder of the kindness of others in bodhicitta.
We got one from online from Fletcher. Concerned about a new scary diagnosis, working to find peace.
We will keep you in our thoughts and send you metta. All right. If that's it for today, we're going to take a moment of silence to reflect on those joys and concerns and hold space for them in our heart. I'd like to invite anybody who has a temple announcement to the dais.
I'm Gail Kachisu. I am on the board and part of the temple auxiliary. Our temple exists solely on the generosity of everybody who's sitting here, Sangha members. And it's expressed by our effort in keeping the temple clean. It's expressed in our time, those people who come here early to help set up or to keep the temple clean, and our monetary contributions. And as you all know, dana, or generosity, is absolutely central to who we are. If you feel so compelled and if you're able, we have dana boxes at either end of the black boxes at the end of the temple, QR codes you can scan for PayPal. For those people listening on YouTube, drop down and it says see more. Also, if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, there's a lot of really interesting information as well as quotes, beautiful pictures. A lot of time is put into that newsletter and it's really very well done. Thank you.
So for our July announcements, our Grand Rapids Buddhist Temple board meeting is on Sunday, July 16th, so next week, after temple 11:30 to 1, and it meets here at the temple, or you can join via Google Meet. There are Buddhist-based recovery meetings on Mondays at the temple or on Zoom, Wednesdays at the Alano Club, and Fridays at Garfield Park, or join via Zoom. We also have an ongoing weekly meditation group that's online on Zoom, and that's on Wednesdays from 7:30 to 8:15. This month we are doing a guided meditation that really provides a lot of great perspective. It's a great teaching. And if you're interested in that, there's information in the newsletter, on the website, or you can contact Kunga for more information. So I think we are ready for our closing gathas. But before we stand up and do those, I just want to say thank you to those who came early to help with cleaning outside, those who came and helped set up. We had to rearrange the cushions this morning and put out a few more. We had to put a new chant in the books, all of that. So I had a lot of help from Sangha members this morning. So I'm really grateful for your help this morning who came and did that. Also, thank you to our tech team. They are able to make this happen on YouTube and to be able to share the Dharma with the greater community. So thank you to all of them. And to you all for being here. Glad to have you. So with that, let's stand. And together we say, for all unskillful actions ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts, now I atone for them all. Vast is the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddhist teachings for the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless blind passion, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to penetrate. The great way of Buddha, I vow to attain. This side, face this side. And we bow. Thank you all for being here this morning. Just a few final reminders, if you can take your papers and tuck them into your booklets and return them to their front page. Somebody will come around and collect those. Fluff up your mats and your cushions and make sure they're arranged just so for the next group that comes in to use them. Thank you. There's the tea downstairs.